Even having the possibility in your mind that you think that you can be successful is going to determine whether you actually are, far more than whether or not you know who to call and when and how many and your numbers and all your comps and everything like that.
This video is brought to you by 10K Club, a program that pays you $10,000 for finding ugly houses. Learn more at my10kcheck.com.
I'm passionate about this topic because I really do feel like it's way more important than anything that he's sharing with you guys today. Because it's really, what he's talking about is the nuts and bolts. And if you can apply the principles, what I'm going to talk to you about, anything in your life, you're going to be successful in any area of your life. If this is the solution, this model, to solve any problem, okay? Whether it's in your relationship, whether you're trying to buy and sell real estate, whether you're trying to be a parent, this is going to solve everything. This is the core, your mindset. This is your core belief that you're going to, that's going to help you to either have a growth mindset, or this is going to progress you into having more of a fixed mindset. So it's called the STEER model. This is a combination kind of hybrid between a model that I learned from Brooke Castillo and Jody Moore and also Andy Martineau. But I'm going to go through this model a little bit to explain to you what this acronym right here means. And what I'm expecting you guys to do for the whole rest of the time that you're here, and pretty much for the whole rest of your life, is every time you have a problem and you're sitting in a restaurant or anywhere else, that you jot down on your napkin, STEER. Okay, we're talking the actual acronym of STEER. How do I want to steer my life? How do I want to steer whatever it is that I'm trying to accomplish right now? And I'm going to help you break down exactly what it is that you're doing to steer you in the right direction and make sure that you're kind of coming outside of your brain. Our brains are, when we're afraid, especially our brains like to go into the limbic system. It likes to go into the back of your brain and do this fight or flight. And we don't use so much of our frontal cortex, which is where we have choice and where we have intention. When we have something that's a little bit, could be perceived as a threat or scary, we like to go into the back of our brain with a brain that's just unfiltered. I want to teach you guys how to filter through your brain, write down your thoughts, because it's really hard to see what it is that you're thinking about unless you can see them from the outside. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is situation. Or you also might want to call it circumstance, okay? So the situation or the circumstance is something that could be proven in a court of law. It's the facts about your situation. Now, I know that facty is not a word, but it's just the most appropriate for what I'm trying to explain. So, for example, we're going to use the traffic, starting out right here, okay? We're going to pretend that our problem that it is that we have at the moment that we're trying to solve is traffic, okay? Even me calling it traffic, that's relative, that's objective, okay? Somebody who lives in New York and their version of what traffic is versus somebody who lives in Kansas, their version of traffic, and they use the same word, but it might not necessarily mean the same thing. So if we want to be able to identify to our brain the real true thoughts, because your brain, especially that limbic part that's all scared all the time, it wants to make up a bunch of stuff about how scary things are because it just wants to survive. It just wants to protect you. So we want to take that monkey brain and we want to put it in the back and be like, no, I'm just using my best of myself, my most evolved intelligence right now, and I just want to know what the situation is. If we're going to describe traffic as a situation, how can we describe it? Only the facts.
Cars are not moving.
Yes, cars are not moving on the road, or cars are going 10 miles per hour. We can't even say congested, because that might be relative to what somebody's opinion is. So when we want to even analyze and understand what's really going on, we can take a lot of the drama out of it and just really see what's going on when we're not using words like annoying or even congested, especially when we know that a word like congested is going to evoke some of those feelings of anxiety, and we're trying to keep that monkey brain put back. So as we go through some more examples, I want you guys to understand what a situation or a circumstance is. The next thing we need to look at in the model is our thoughts that we're having about this situation, okay? The thoughts are, like what I just said, they're opinions that can't be proven in a court of law, okay? So they're objective or relative. So we've already said, what are some of the thoughts that we can have about traffic? We already said a lot of those. What were they? Annoying. It's delaying. What else? Exhausting. Yeah, okay? So I'm not gonna write this part out again, but we'll just use this so that you guys can see what a model actually looks like compared to theirs. So with our situation, we just said cars in a row moving slowly. Okay? So the thoughts that we had are annoying and slow, frustrating. Okay. The understanding and being able to differentiate between these two is the biggest key to this whole model, because our brains like to be so reactive. We think, I can't help it if there's traffic. That's not a thought. That's a situation that it's slow. And when we can break that down and be able to differentiate and realize that we choose our thoughts, we might not choose the circumstance. We might not choose the situation. That's just what is. But the thoughts we do choose, and then we can play around with this and we're not so reactive, because this can be any old situation. And as long as we are in charge of what we're thinking about it, then that's where we have control. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys that's in our model are feelings or emotions. Okay, this is a really important one because emotions, our feelings are what drive our behaviors. This is the motivation that we have. Everything that we do is because we want to feel a certain way. And I'd like to venture to say that everything that you do, you are doing to feel good about yourself in some way. Okay, it all goes back to self-worth and being able to be really core and really solid that your worth is inherent and that it doesn't matter what you do or don't accomplish, how much money you do or don't make on a deal, how many marriages you do or don't go through, how many estranged relationships you have with your children or neighbors. When you can really hold on to that sense of worth, then your emotions and trying to prove yourself is not going to drive you in a direction that you don't want to go. But you can't realize that your emotions are driving you or that your feelings of self-worth are less until you can actually recognize what emotion it is that you're choosing to have about this circumstance or this situation. And you could make some really silly decisions because we are desperate to feel good enough. So we want to take that out and we want to be able to really focus on that we have worth, that this is an opportunity to grow, and no matter what decisions we make that are right or wrong, that we're going to learn from them and that we can handle whatever emotion that we have. And that's what's going to help us to be able to neutralize a lot of the negative emotion that comes with it. And you can get all of the money and all of the relationships and all the success that you could ever want, and you'll never feel satiated because you don't know what your real why is, and you're never actually getting it because you can't even articulate it. These negative emotions of feeling like I'm not a good enough provider, I'm not a good enough dad, I'm not smart enough, I'm not capable enough, I have to do this to prove to myself that I can do hard things, I have to do it to prove to my mom that it was a good investment for me to spend this much money, that makes you a little crazy. And you start doing weird stuff without thinking it through just to be able to prove what you mean. So we have to understand that negative emotion is a natural part of being human, but then we recognize that's just my monkey brain coming from the back of my head. I can analyze and see what it is. And if this emotion is actually driving me towards something that makes sense, or if I'm just doing it because I want to feel a certain way. And I don't need to feel it from my real estate. I've got my core belief that is, I have worth no matter what I do or don't do and mess up in this. And that's going to actually propel you into success, or a much higher probability of propelling you into success than telling yourself, I'm a big loser, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to be able to make it, they're right about me, I shouldn't have invested in this. What are the emotions then that we have when we're sitting in traffic? Is frustration, anger. We see that on the road. I mean, when you think about when anger or frustration is driving you to do anything, are you making good decisions? No. So what are the actions that happen then? This is what we're going to talk. These are based on our feelings. Okay, rage, right? Here's some actions. The bird. Okay, what are some other actions? Okay, car accidents, maybe. Or that could even be your result. Car accident. And guess what the thought is that you had? Just maybe yelling is an action. Yelling all by yourself in the car where nobody can hear you. That's super productive and helpful, isn't it? So our result even could be a car accident, but what's our real result that happens? Is it bad? Yes. Anything you choose to think is for sure what your result is going to be. So when you break this all down like this, and you can see, if I do this, then this is going to happen, then that's going to happen, and I'm going to get this because I originally thought this. And your brain doesn't want to be dumb. And your monkey brain is going to do whatever it takes to see the truth that it originally thought up in the first place. Make sure you think a good thought, then your result is going to match. So this is our unintentional model, okay? So this is like the thought download. You're sitting in the car. I'm mad. I want to know why. I just want to be curious about myself. Being mad in the car when I'm late, that's normal. We're not going to make ourselves feel guilty or bad about that either. All of this is normal. The whole point of this model is not so that we don't ever feel frustration or anger. Again, of course we are, but let's just be curious instead of judgmental about why we're feeling it, okay? And let's do an intentional model. Same thing, STEAR. And now let's just say, if I was just gonna choose what it is, what are the things that I would pick instead? Okay, let's try to do traffic again, guys. So situation, is that gonna change? The thought, I get to listen to books, okay? Some people, that might be a good thought. Some people, that might be a bad thought. But we still know that it's a thought. But let's say for you even that it's a good thought. What's the emotion that you're going to have then? Okay, learning. What's the emotion though? Happy is an emotion. Satisfaction. Okay. Maybe productivity or productive. Okay. What's the action? Yeah. Okay. The action is you're still learning. You're actually making use of that car ride. I mean, are you going to be giving people the bird and yelling and possibly getting into a car accident? What are the odds? Okay. Right. Okay. Maybe less odds accident. Okay. What's your result then? It's the same thing. Okay. Even if there's traffic, you stay centered in where you're at and you're thought of, I get to listen to books. Right? And it doesn't matter what's going on around you. So let's try this again. The situation is there are calls to be made. Okay? Do you guys understand? We have to be able to identify this. Everything that you were telling me about are thoughts before. And then you look at it and you think, I can't change that. But if you're thinking, I can't change it, then you're stuck. And you can't manipulate any of the results that you want to have. But the situation is that you have to pick up the phone and you have to call. What we think about that, we can manipulate in our minds, but the situation is that there are calls to be made. So what are the unintentional thoughts that she's having? Don't know what to say, thoughts. Or just the thought is, I might say something dumb. Okay, so what are the emotions that she has then? If this is just, you understand that this is all happening in your mind in like 20 seconds.
Rejection.
Okay, emotion is rejection.
Fear.
Definitely. Fear. What else? Okay, embarrassed. Good one. Uh-huh. Insecure. Again, it's all coming right here to your worth. Can you know that you have more worth as a human if you never look stupid? No. We do not know that. Anybody who's taken the chance or the risk to look stupid, those are the only people who have actually grown and done anything big. So when you can see it on the piece of paper, you can be like, that's just my monkey brain trying to survive. Thank you, monkey brain. I'm alive. I don't need your advice anymore. I can choose the thought that I want to have about it instead. Okay, so if we're staying unintentional though, what are our actions then if we have rejection and fear and embarrassed from calling? What's our action?
Not do anything.
Inaction is still an action. So you're exactly right. Inaction. Are you going to get up and make that call? No. What are you going to do instead?
Watch Netflix.
Watch Netflix. Grab some Ben & Jerry's. Okay? Because we're embarrassed. We're insecure. We're motivated by our emotions and our feelings. Why in the heck would you get up and do anything to take that kind of risk, to feel bad about yourself? Okay? We're not going to go there. So what's your result?
Nothing.
Nothing. Because guess what? You just don't know. You thought that you didn't know, and guess what? You don't, because you didn't do it. All right? Now let's be intentional about it. Let's get a new steer. Let's pick how you're going to solve this problem on the napkin before we get there. This is going to translate over. This is the same. There are calls to be made. What's some new thoughts that she can have? Okay, this is my chance to find a motivated seller. This is my chance.
It's a learning opportunity.
This is a learning opportunity. I'm learning. Yeah, every call I make, I'm that much closer. Or I know now how not to talk to the next person. That was educational. To see this difference in this growth mindset. Oh, that person cussed me out. Okay, I'm not going to use that word next time. You know? Or they must be having a really bad day. Like, let's make that about them, because I sure as heck know that this isn't anything about me not knowing what to say. That must actually have something to do with them then. Because if you're holding on to yourself, and especially that worth isn't a problem, and you're like, I'm solid. I know I've got a growth mindset here, that I am enough with or without this deal, then when they do that kind of stuff, it doesn't have to mean anything about who you are. And you can just keep progressing and not give up and not succumb to Ben & Jerry's and Netflix, because your worth is inherent and good enough. So what's the emotion that you have when you're thinking the thoughts? Even if you got rejected all day long, but you're thinking these thoughts, what's your emotion that you're going to feel? Confident. Yes. And so who's in charge of your confidence? You or the people who are listening to you on your phone? You. And do you want to let the person who you're talking to be in charge of whether you're successful at this or not? I wouldn't suggest it, because you can't control anything that anybody else does. This is all just feeling like I'm learning my way to a new deal, not earning my way to a new deal. You guys understand the difference between that too? So even when that first deal doesn't go through and you're going to use the model and you have thoughts like, if this deal doesn't make this amount of money, this means that that doesn't work. Guess what result you're going to get then? It's just not going to work because you thought that. But even if you have your first deal and it doesn't make very much money, but you think the thought, now I'm that much closer to knowing what I need to do next time, then that is going to get you the result that you're looking for, that you don't give up, that you keep going, that you keep trying, that you keep learning versus just giving up. Okay, so what is our action then? When we feel confident, motivated, and happy, you keep going. More calls.
You're going to sound better on the calls.
Yes, let's think about that.
Bring the right energy.
I love that, Tyler. I'm so glad that you bring that up. Because the action is also the way that you show up. And as human beings, we map each other. We don't need to use all the right words or anything like that. We've been communicating with each other so much more by our body language and our tone and our energy than exactly what it is that we say. So if you're on the phone with somebody and you've got that ultimate worth vibe going through you and you are happy and motivated and you're like, I'm figuring this out, are they going to be motivated to do a deal with you? Versus if you're like, I'm so desperate, you have to do this deal or it's going to mean that I'm a bad person and I'm never going to be able to show my face in my family again. They're going to be like, you're psycho. You are not confident and I am not doing any deals with you because you're desperate. You know, that works that way in relationships too. We have to be differentiated. We have to be able to hold our own space in order to be able to have the control of driving our life the way that we want it, the places that we want it to go. So then what is our result, guys? Deals. You're so right. But your way of being is your way of thinking. And that's the core stuff that's just going to give you the growth and give you the progression that you guys are going to need. Because everything's not just going to fall together at first. He's giving you all the tools, but it's just the only way to grow. It's the only way to learn.
Set you back, have your thoughts moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. Growth mindset. So good luck, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.